Pre-recorded from an undisclosed location in northern Nevada. It's 23 degrees sideways. Predictive art is an interesting thing. Okay, predictions are just kind of funny. A lot of times they're very non-pragmatic. There's these big, huge logic trees like giant sugar candy castles that are built to try to justify a prediction, which is mostly a desire. Back in February, early February at that, I made a series of predictions. This went on for a couple of weeks. Most of those predictions came true. The only one that has not come true yet is about gasoline. And those predictions were perceived very negatively in certain social groups, and were one of the bases for me actually being removed from a couple of those. And long story short, there are fringe cultures, not even fringe cultures. There's cultures on the internet, chat rooms, social media, groups. There's groups on Facebook. There's groups in forums. There's groups on Discord. Discord is a chat medium. It's kind of like a instant group hangouts kind of social media thing. If you remember IRC, it's like IRC made worse. And I was removed from some of those communities. I removed myself from some others. Here's the thing, right? So a lot of those are like gun communities. And you'd think gun rights communities would be positive about rights. Like the whole basis here is self-defense is a human right. The Constitution protects a right, protects an existing right. Rights are a big deal. They're not. The gun communities online is mostly a bunch of cocks who hate other gun owners. That's like it's bizarre, but it perfectly matches all the other groups. Like if you look at any group of Marxists, Antifa, BLM, but online, once you get a group together, their primary existence is to hate other groups of people who do the same thing, or hate other people who do the same thing, or advocate the same thing. It's an amazing effect of the internet. Kind of crazy. Anyway, I made some predictions. The predictions pissed people off. Prediction number 1 was that total mortality for the coronavirus, so this is early enough that the news media was saying that the coronavirus was nothing and that Trump was a racist. Okay, this is early enough that the media, the CDC, the World Health Organization, China were all saying this is nothing. It's a nothing burger. Nothing burger was a phrase that was used a lot in January and early February. And of course, in the fringe groups, in the prepper community especially, but in the prepper community, the gun community, the alternative art community, the alternative living space, so alternative psychology, alternative spirituality, meditation spaces, you have a lot of people who tend to overreact to potential doom and gloom. A lot of them like it. You may not have seen the video about low-grade stress and high-stress environments yet, but that explains a lot of what's going on. People want a high-stress situation to cure low-grade stress sometimes, chronic low-grade stress. Anyway, we call them disasterbators. There are a lot of disasterbators. Anthony Fauci, for example, is a disasterbator who has made his career and his profession on it. Before you listen to anything he says, you should look at his record on Ebola and AIDS. The guy makes money off of scaring people. That's who he is. So in the communities, there was this, there's a new virus from China, so everyone starts going, it's going to be 20% of the world. Oh my God, there's nothing you can do. Get ready now. And I'm like, no, not really. I looked at the numbers, the initial numbers, the type of virus. I talked to a virologist I'm not going to name, because he would disown everything he said in January, but he's like, yeah, so functionally they're probably going to say it's 1.5%, which means in real world, once you get out in the population, in the broader population, it's going to be 0.25% fatality, maybe. And the funny thing is that right now, NPR has actually released a report that says, yeah, actually, once you account for all of the other tests, the antibody tests and stuff, it looks like maybe 0.5%, maybe, possibly, fatality rate, mortality rate. Disaster predictions are often overblown. You have to prepare for them to be prepared, and you can do that in a positive aspect if you don't run a fear program, okay? Preparing can be positive, joyful, creative, fantastic. It doesn't have to be negative fear. Anyway, I predicted that there would be fights in stores over goods and over the disease. I predicted that there would be riots, although I did not predict that the riots would use the excuse of race war. But I did predict that government action would restrict people and there would be riots. I predicted a negative economic impacts and negative suicide impacts from closing down schools. I predicted a major economic hit. The only way. So at the time, back in January, people were still doing the thing like, oh, the U.S. economy only grew by this much, not this much, so therefore we're in a depression. Because they hate Trump, so they were trying to find any way to make the economy look bad, even if it wasn't. And basically the media, people who parrot the media, and Democrats. So I predicted that the only thing that could actually hurt our economy would be an overreaction to this virus, this coming pandemic. At the time, I was still using the word epidemic, global epidemic. Well, now we're pandemic because that's a better word, scarier to people. Epidemic's been overused. So I made these predictions. I predicted that there would be intermittent, weird shortages in supply, and that we would probably see a slowdown with China trade. I made some predictions. The only one that I said, so I said, make sure your first aid stuff is good. Make sure you're good on durable paper goods or storable paper goods, canned food. Okay, everything disappeared. All the cleansers. There was for a while you couldn't even get dish soap, right? Toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning materials, like mops were out of stock for a while. What the hell, right? Anyway, meats, canned goods. So the larger cans. This is one of those weird things. Like one of the things that the family uses as a longer term preparation, and you'll see that on the other channel, is large cans of chili. I don't eat the chili because it's not the ingredients are not pure. All right, Dr. Strangelove reference, but you got to keep your food and your water pure, and your spirits. But we buy the large cans because it makes a good base for a large batch of chili, which the ingredients aren't so bad once you start adding a whole bunch of homegrown pork and tomato, and once you make a couple gallons of chili out of this large can. But the large cans are enough. They're also enough for an emergency dinner with hot dogs or something, and some parts of the family, some parts of the farm use it, some parts don't. It's, I'll eat it if it's a survival food. It's just not something I'm going to eat on a normal basis. It's stable, has a long shelf life, and you can rotate through it. Once you have your 80 cans of it, big cans, you can slowly rotate through. If you use 1 can a week, you can have 104 cans and go through your stock every 2 years, and that's perfect rotation. Different topic, different video, different channel. Anyway, the big cans of chili are gone. They've been gone for months. The big cans of some other stuff are gone. The multi-packs of Spam. Spam is actually a really fantastic survival food in terms of energy density and getting enough sodium and stuff. Again, different story, right? Highly processed, but whatever. So all this stuff has disappeared and stayed and disappeared, which is, I wasn't expecting the economy to take this much hit. I wasn't expecting the governments to step in and tell people they weren't allowed to work. I was not expecting the left to step in and say that the people who are still working are bad or oppressed because they're working. Like, the idea that you have food on your table at all is slavery, oppression, lack of a social safety net. I wasn't expecting that part. But I made several predictions. The predictions pissed people off. Pretty much the only one that has not come to pass is we have not had a severe fuel shortage yet. Wintertime is coming, and I highly suggest that you think about that just a little bit. 15 gallons of kerosene might not be a bad idea as an emergency fuel supply. If you have a kerosene heater, if you know how to do kerosene. Being right is sometimes worse than being wrong. And I wonder what it's going to look like in a couple of months. I wonder what it's going to look like next year. Right now we have a real world mortality rate that no one wants to talk about that is, in the United States, well under 1%. Probably in that 0.25% range. Like, probably 1/4% who get the coronavirus die. And even that is probably combined with other causes, okay? Here's the thing. Our testing isn't great. Our testing still isn't fantastic. We're missing lots and lots of people who have had the virus or who have the virus now. When you see, oh wow, we've got more tests, now we have more cases, now the world is going to end. It's false, right? It's totally false. But the more we figure out about testing, the more we figure out about contact tracing, the more we figure out about antibody testing, the more people we get in there, the more we realize that a lot of people that we didn't think have had it. A lot of people we don't think have it. Those people don't even get sick, okay? That means that the mortality rate is lower. That means that you've got a lot of people who are over 50 with diabetes and hypertension who've had it and never even knew it. Comorbidity factors don't mean that you will get sick, but they do mean that if you present frank symptoms, you might be worse off. Might be. We don't know what all is going on there, right? We really don't have a solid handle on what's going to make one fat diabetic 50-year-old dude with a goatee sick and another fat diabetic dude with a goatee not sick. There's some other differences going on there, okay? It's morning. It's time for the park dude to drive by. He's behind me somewhere. There he is. All right. So, 0.5%, maybe. Probably closer to 0.25%. And of the people who are dying, most of them are dying because the care is inadequate or misapplied. Mostly misapplied. It's not inadequate. It's not that we don't have the stuff, but we're not applying the care properly. There's a drug out there that everyone is arguing about, HCQ, which, if you actually look at the studies and the data of reasonable doses not given in conjunction with experimental antivirals that it reacts with, it seems to have a basically positive effect and is a fairly safe medication in low doses, like safer than Tylenol in terms of low doses. It is over-the-counter safe if taken as prescribed, and yes, you can totally fuck that up and kill yourself, but Tylenol, you can totally fuck that up and kill yourself. There's gonna be issues. There's gonna be issues from certain segments of the population when the knowledge comes out, when the studies come out, when the results come out, and we realize that, one, this thing was never deadly enough to triple our suicide rate, shut down our economy, have people lose houses. I mean, we're down like 46 million jobs or something at this point, and a lot of those aren't coming back. We were destroying lives and careers. There's going to be a lot of hate and anger about that when it turns out that it wasn't necessary, that it was overblown, that it was an authoritarian power grab. I mean, literally, governments are acting like China, like a communist dictatorship. And, man, if it turns out that some of these easy medications that we already know about really are helpful, not just not harmful, but significantly, seriously helpful. And there's some studies out there. There's small studies, but there are some randomized control trials that show that. People are going to get mad. People are going to wonder why their wife died. Man. Where's that going to go? Like, where are you going to go with that? Where are you going to go with the knowledge that the government, the media, and the medical industry combined together in an effort to hate one person? I really think a lot of this boils down to hate Trump, the outsider. Instead of assassinating him like they did with Kennedy, they're assassinating other people. What happens? What's next? Like, what do people? How do you react to that? I have a different perspective. I understand that we're in a period of American history where we're playing revolution games. We're playing liberty games. We're figuring out the next step in how to change our technological culture to accommodate individual liberty, because we haven't really done that with the technology. I have a different perspective. A lot of it is fun. It's a game. Like, I have a very positive outlook, but if you're a normal person and your wife died because the media lied, where do you go? Like, what's your reaction? You just going to believe the next lie? I don't know. You might want to think about that, though. Stay sideways. Despite the downer parts of the video, have a fantastic morning. Remember, my predictions were all about temporary weirdness, temporary crap. That my overall prediction is that this is going to end up very well. Have a good one.